First of all, I apologize for Friday's video quality. I don't know what the hell happened, but for the second time in the past week, as you noticed, my mouth was moving. You heard the audio, but you saw the video just jitter all the way along. Hopefully I've rectified the problems today, but we will soon find out, won't we? But listen, yesterday here on the video report, I hit 3 out of 4 complimentary plays, giving you winners on Air Force, Colorado, and Texas. The lone loser was Missouri against Arkansas. 10-4 run with the college football free picks, 6-1 roll with the NFL free picks, and I have a number of selections for the Saturday card. Yesterday I also cashed in with my best bet with Iowa with a miraculous fourth quarter comeback, getting the job done. That was a top-rated 15-dime release. Today I've got a raise the bar 20-dime play, a game that I like even more. That's on the night card, and that one is going to be on the Notre Dame Stanford contest. But without further ado, let's get to your complimentary plays for this busy Saturday card, the last big Saturday card of this college football season. On the nighttime slate, I'm going to take a look at the Pac-12 game between UCLA and California. You know, UCLA is, of course, coming off the big beatdown of their crosstown rival, that being USC. A big game for Chip Kelly's Bruins. Monstrous performance, a season-high 609 yards in that 62-33 rout. They have already naturally wrapped up their bowl berth, so you have to wonder, once again, as I spoke about in yesterday's video report, the motivation here, because it's not like it's going to improve their bowl standing here, another win today. Of course, they want to carry momentum into the postseason, but really what is at stake is either the third or the fourth place finish in the Pac-12, and the bowl bid at stake is either going to be a trip to the Holiday Bowl in San Diego or a trip to the Las Vegas Bowl. Now, the kids probably want to go to Las Vegas, and I don't blame them. But the reality is this game is far more important for California. Now, the Golden Bears are coming off another beatdown as well. They took care of business, 41-11 over Stanford last week, 636 yards in the big game. Held Stanford to 282. They ran for 352 in that contest. And that was a week after having a week off because of COVID issues within the program. Now, the Golden Bears need to win this game and next week's game against USC in a makeup game in order to become bowl eligible. They are on a roll. They've won 3 of their last 4 games. The only loss was a game which they were without 15 to 20 players because of COVID issues when they lost to Arizona. Otherwise, during that stretch, the 3 wins, they beat Colorado handily at home 26-3. They went and beat Oregon State at home 39-25, and of course they smacked down Stanford. This is a team, California, that runs the ball extremely well, 179.1 yards rushing a game. That's the most they have averaged per game on the ground since 2012. And they do it with a running back by committee approach. Not one of their backs averages more than 52 yards a game. They also have one of the best defenses in the Pac-12. In fact, they're tied for number 1 in the conference, points per game yield of only 21.1. And they lead the conference in run defense at 122 yards per game yield. Now, UCLA runs the ball. That's Chip Kelly's MO this season with the Bruins. And one of their top running backs missed the game against USC and is doubtful perhaps to miss this game as well. So I would go ahead and in this particular game, take the 6.5 points because I think Cal is going to give UCLA, a team that's not that good defensively, all can handle. And I think this could be a 3 or 4 point game. So I like California. Also on the Pac-12 nighttime card, you've got BYU, a 7-point favorite against USC. Now, BYU is coming off a win at Georgia Southern last week. And how ironic is that? Because Georgia Southern just hired a couple of weeks ago Clay Helton, the fired USC coach, as their new head coach for next season. Go figure, right? You got a BYU team that runs the ball relentlessly. They average 172.8 yards per game on the ground. You've got a USC team that in the 62-33 loss last week to UCLA, I just mentioned, they gave up 609 yards overall, and they can't stop anybody on the ground. You got a BYU team that's a perfect 4-0 against Pac-12 teams so far this year. You got a BYU team that I think is going to be able to run the ball relentlessly. I think a BYU team that wants to have a feather in its cap and run the table against Pac-12 teams. A USC team that, yeah, it could become bowl eligible by winning today and winning next week in its makeup game against Cal. But I don't think it's going to happen because this Trojans team is just bad. So I'm going to go with BYU. I think it's a cheap price, but I do not think it's going to be a blowout any stretch of the imagination. I think BYU will probably win this game only by 10, maybe 12 points, but I do like the Cougars in that one. Now, as we move up the schedule in terms of chronological order, I think Purdue minus 15 points takes care of business against a bad Indiana team. This is an Indiana team that, 0-8 straight up, 1-7 against the spread in conference play, a team that allows 32 points a game this season, has just 9 takeaways defensively, has played 4 quarterbacks, and your guess is as good as mine which of those 4 quarterbacks or all of them may be playing today. A Purdue team that has won 3 of its last 4, coming off a 32-14 win against Northwestern. In that 4-game stretch, their only loss came at Ohio State, nothing to be ashamed of there. Previously, in that 4-game stretch, they beat Michigan State at home 40-29. They won 28-23 at Nebraska. So again, they're on quite a roll. And during that 4-game stretch, their quarterback, Aiden O'Connell, 12 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, thanks to an offensive line that has allowed just 5 sacks in that stretch. You've got an Indiana team that can't put any pressure on quarterbacks. They only have 15 or 16 sacks on the entire season. And the Purdue defense has actually played very well, giving up just a tad under 22 points a game this season. So I would lay the points easily with Purdue. Love the Boilermakers here at minus 15 points. A game to be leery of. I talked about how yesterday, the Utah-Colorado game, and I gave you Colorado because Utah had really nothing to play for because they just beat down Oregon and had Oregon coming up again in the Pac-12 championship game. Be extremely leery of Houston and Connecticut. Houston is a 32.5-point road favorite against UConn today, and UConn's awful. We know that. But does Houston really care about this game, knowing that the AAC championship game with undefeated Cincinnati is coming up? And who knows what happens if they were to pull off the shocker against the Bearcats? Are they really going to be focused on this game? Are they going to really play their starters throughout? If you're going to play that game, you play it one of 2 ways. You either take UConn plus the 32.5 points, or you play Houston minus 19.5 in the first half. I think the better way to play it is to take Houston plus the 32.5 and hope that UConn plus the 32.5, and you hope that the Huskies in the second half against Houston's second and third stringers, when their motivation is lacking, that's where you sneak in for the backdoor cover. That's the reach play of the day. Also on the early card, I think Tennessee names the score minus the 32 points against a Vanderbilt team that is averaging, 15, 16 points a game. Do not be deceived by Vanderbilt's performance as a 36-point dog, covering last week in a 31-17 loss to Ole Miss. Ole Miss was clearly looking ahead to the Egg Bowl matchup against Mississippi State. This is a Vandy team, again, that can't score. You've got a Tennessee team that can put points on the board without even trying. I mean, they're coming off a 60-14 win against South Alabama, in which they put 561 total yards on the board. And Hendon Hooker, the quarterback, he is perfect for running that high-octane, up-tempo offense. 17 for 20, 273 yards, 2 touchdowns last week against the Jaguars. On the season, 70% completions, 24 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 486 yards rushing. I think Tennessee could win this one 45-10. They may win it 55-17. And then the big game, got to touch on it. I like Ohio State minus the 7 points at Michigan. And of course, I'm buying down the half point in that case with the Buckeyes. The series domination, but let's think about the other facts of motivation. Ohio State last year thought Michigan was ducking them using the coronavirus spread throughout the team as an excuse. And there's still some on the Buckeyes this year that still think that Michigan was using that as an excuse last year. Go figure. It was an excuse. It really did devour the team last season. Ryan Day has been focused on this game. How he was focused on this game. He admitted to thinking about this game midway through last week's SmackDown in Michigan State. Oh, and that SmackDown in Michigan State, that's the same Michigan State team that took care of business against Michigan? Do you trust Harbaugh in a big game? Couldn't deliver against Michigan State, could he? Okay, they're playing at home. Do you trust Harbaugh in a big game? I don't. So I like Ohio State in this game. Okay, so I gave you a number of plays. Let's rate them in tiers, shall we? Tennessee, tier number 1. Ohio State, tier number 1. God, I gave you so many plays. I should have written these down because it's getting confusing for me. Anyway, those are the 2 tier 1 selections. In tier number 2, I would say, also tier number 1, let's put Purdue. So Purdue, Ohio State, and Tennessee would all be tier number 1 plays. Then down in tier number 2, I think that you've got to take a look at that Pac-12 non-conference game between USC and BYU and put BYU down there in tier number 2. In tier number 3, that would be your play on California. And then I said your reach play of the day, that's the one that, the reach would be Connecticut. So there, ran down a number of plays for you on this card. Good luck, everybody, and talk to you again on Sunday.